This is Truth Be Told.
That not only are there reptilians here,
new evidence of UFO fleets.
We were close to nuclear war.
To help you transform so that you can live your highest truth.
We're not being told just because we're not ready for it.
Radio stations of frequency, vibrational.
I was a homicide detective with LAPD.
UFOs increase. Visitations. We've been hearing a lot about the Great Awakening. Well, today we have a gentleman, author Bob Frissell, talking about his latest book, Catching the Ascension Wave. Everything you need to know about the coming Great Awakening. Bob explores the forces working to advance our planetary ascension into a higher consciousness. And why would some people or some beings want to block it? We're going to go back over 500,000 years and figure out how to understand this, put it in layman's terms, and see how this awakening, how it will change our lives forever. I'm Tony Sweet with Truth Be Told. Please welcome to the Truth Be Told studios for the first time, author Bob Frissell.
Frissell, excuse me.
Is it Frissell?
Yeah, it is Frissell. Sorry, we should have cleared that up before we came on. But that's okay, Tony. I'm used to being called Frissell. Happened all my life.
That's
so
okay.
One more time isn't gonna hurt anything.
Well, you'd be surprised how many people mispronounce sweet. I'm like, pretty easy, but people do mispronounce it sometimes.
They do, huh? Well,
yeah.
I guess if it can be mispronounced, it will be. But whatever my last name is, I'm glad to be here, and thanks for having me on. Why do I say that? Well, I get to talk about my favorite topics. Goodness sakes, that excites me.
Well, good. That's what we want. We want to be excited, and I know people that are going to be viewing today are excited. So please, first of all, tell us, how does a breath work guru
wait a minute, I'm not a guru.
I know, but you know, that was my little add-on there. But how did you get into the ascension of the higher consciousness? How did your story unfold?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. Oh golly, I've been studying this in various ways, in various degrees, ever since the late 1970s.
Oh wow!
And I got into it in earnest in about 1990. In 1990, I had really a great awakening. One of many great awakenings I've had, where some information was revealed to me that just kind of not only blew my mind, but opened me up to just very much wanting to dig deeper and find out what's going on here. One way of looking at it, Tony, is that I began to realize that you and I, individually and collectively, we've been lied to and misled in many, well, almost in every conceivable way.
What?
Yeah, right. That's a mouthful right there, isn't there? I hope I'm able to unpack that,
right.
And I can, given enough time. But anyway, I just once I began to realize that one way of looking at it is I just got tired of being lied to, and I want to know what the truth is. And ultimately, any journey, as you continue to dig into it, it's always, in my view, going to lead into a spiritual journey, because everything is a function of consciousness. Well, raising your consciousness, now we're getting into spiritual work, and ultimately that's going to lead you to the whole topic of ascension. The other thing I want to say, Tony, is that this has been. It has been and continues to be, to this very moment, a great and exciting adventure for me.
Oh, great.
I only dig into stuff that really excites me and interests me, and I would never consider writing about it if I wasn't really motivated to do so. And by that deep sense of my interest and something that really excites me.
You know, it's a lot of people in this industry, I call paranormal industry or spiritual industry, a lot of it takes us back to Egypt, where we talk about the building of the pyramids and hieroglyphs, and even your book. I'm going to show the picture of your book, but there's a lot of symbols even though these are DNA strands and stuff like that, they're still symbols in a lot of ways. How does that interpret in your mind on some of these symbols when it comes to the ascension?
Well, in my last book, nothing in this book is true, but it's exactly how things are. I took a deep dive into the Egyptian mystery schools, well, that's really what sets the stage for writing Catching the Ascension Wave.
Right.
Because in that book, I detailed the two 12-year mystery schools that were going on way back in the day, and really focused in on the second of the two 12-year schools. It was Akhenaten's mystery school, and the name of it was the Law of One. Now let's just hold the Law of One there for a moment. In Nothing in this book is true, I gave the sacred geometry aspect of it, the purpose being to show the mind that looks out and doesn't really connect the dots to see unity, to show the mind that there is only one creation pattern moving through all life everywhere. And that leads you to the conclusion that there's only one spirit. Everyone and everything is connected to the one infinite creator, and there's just no exceptions there. Sacred geometry is a very useful way of bringing that forth. But the Law of One, the name of that school, that really intrigued me. And so it caused me to look deeper. And in so doing, I'm so glad I did, because I found this incredible document called the Law of One. And they point to how they first tried to bring this information forth back in the day through Akhenaten's mystery school. But as they correctly point out, it was only accepted by a very few. Those within Akhenaten's school itself. Everybody else hated Akhenaten and what he was trying to teach, because it flew directly in the face of what was going on in the day back in Egypt. But you can learn a lot by exploring the Egyptian mystery schools.
In we talk about the Egyptians, but we're going to even go back further, because a lot of us, we've talked over the years even on my show, and I'm sure plenty of others, that Egypt, some of the great pyramids are way older than what we first anticipated. Or
Yes.
So how far back does the Egyptian pyramids connect with what you are talking about? Because that's a lot. I think there's some connection there, don't you think?
Oh, there's definitely a connection. Yeah. To be clear, the Great Pyramid of Giza, it was built about 13,200 years ago.
Wow.
So it's much older than what I began the show saying. Well, I discovered we've been lied to in just about every way possible. There's one of them right there, because they don't want us to know about history that predates 6,000 years. But my goodness, we have to go back at least really 2.6 billion years in order to really begin to get a beat on what's going on here today. And if we want, we can do that. We can do it right now if you want.
I would love that. And yes, I want you to explain that. But I don't know if you saw, I just saw in the news yesterday that in China, they found a 300,000-year-old skull that was likely to be a early human, which I found very fascinating, because this is just continually showing proof that our past is just kind of like the iceberg, the above water.
Right.
We see what's above water, and there's so much more bigger below.
No question about it. Yeah, that's very interesting. I haven't heard that about the 300,000 years old skull, but that's fascinating. What I would say to that is that, well, first of all, let's just dispel the myth that we're alone in the universe. Hello?
Right.
No way. I mean, the universe is just filled with people. Most of them, or many of them at least, are humanoids. This is according to the Law of One, who was brought forth by the ancient builder race, and they go back 2.6 billion years.
Wow.
So my point is that there have been beings here who have come from who knows where and gotten together with other races and created whole new races of beings and populated the earth many times before we human beings ever began to show up. So planet Earth has a long and amazing history, and it sure goes back a lot further than 6,000 years.
Right, right. Well,
Yeah.
this is actually one of the articles. This is the skull that was found 300, and they said it was 300,000 years ago. So, like I said, it's pretty fascinating. So, well,
Yeah.
let's go back to what we were talking about, and you were going to explain a little bit more, going way back, and before Egypt and like 500,000 years.
Well, in order to unpack that, Tony, we really do need to go back about 2.6 billion years, because that's when Venus, our neighbor, went through its ascension. It from third dimension to fourth dimension. Now, at the time, there were only 38 million people, 38 million inhabitants on the entire planet. So I guess living conditions were a bit harsher there on third dimension. And of the 38 million total population, about 6 million made it through into the higher worlds.
Oh, wow.
The other 32 million were not discarded. It's not the way it works. They were transported to another third dimensional planet so that they could go through enough incarnations to become ascension ready themselves. But those who made it through became known as the ancient builder race. And they ventured out not only to planet Earth, where they went to Antarctica first, which was
really?
not buried under 2 miles of ice. And they built a huge underground city. And speaking of pyramids, they also constructed a pyramid that was at least twice the size of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Now, you consider the technology that it would take to do that. With our technology today, we cannot duplicate the Great Pyramid in
Right.
Egypt. You talking about one twice its size? Yeah, these guys were rather advanced, and they were called the ancient builder race. They also ventured out to our moon, and they built obelisks and pyramids and domes and whatever there, the ruins of which are still there today, because they were built out of transparent aluminum, 5 times stronger than bulletproof glass. But they didn't stop there. They ventured out into and colonized the entire local region of 52 star clusters, and that that's sort of like our area of the galaxy.
Right.
And so they also were extremely benevolent race and were able to keep the peace throughout the local 52 star cluster for 2 billion years.
Oh, wow.
But now you come to 500,000 years ago. And this is where things begin to change, and change in a way that's affecting us and impacting us greatly to this present day, to the very day. What happened 500,000 years ago is very much impacting us right here and right now. So to take a look there, 500,000 years ago, goodness sakes, there was a race in our solar system on a planet that is no longer there. Once upon a time, there was a giant planet in our solar system that is known as Maldek, and it's also been called Tiamat. So whatever name you want to call it, Maldek or Tiamat, it was a giant planet. It is now the asteroid belt that is orbiting between the orbits of Mars and Jupiter. So what happened? Well, they became infused with negativity, and they thought it would be a really good idea, I guess they did, to go out and conquer other worlds.
Wow.
And what they did was they hijacked this defensive grid that the ancient builder race had used to keep the peace for 2 billion years. Really ingenious what the ancient builder race had created, a huge defensive shield. If you can imagine one large enough to encase the entire 52 stars, but even better than that, well, let me put it this way. We're all familiar with Star Wars. I guess everybody has seen that.
If not,
I mean, the
you're
first three,
not from this planet.
the first three episodes with what's his name, good old Darth Vader, and
Right.
and the what did they call that? The Death Star.
Death
Yeah.
Star, yep.
Well, I think George Lucas was given inside information because it's known well throughout the secret space program. I opened a can of worms there. So there is a secret space program. I'll just leave it for that for the moment. But this was what the ancient builder race had developed. They developed the ability to literally hollow out moons and fill them with their version of the Death Star. Only it wasn't used to conquer and destroy planets. It was used to keep the space, to keep the peace, and it worked exceptionally well, perfectly. In fact, for 2 billion years, and that is until the progenitor race. That was this malevolent race of beings from Maldek, who hijacked it and started using the moons to go out and conquer other worlds. And this works through through really what you might call a cosmic web, the whole thing. And they thought that they understood how to hijack these moons in such a way that they could use them to destroy other planets, and they tried that, but they weren't quite as smart as they thought they were, because they ended up completely destroying their planet, and also impacting their moon, which, believe it or not, at the time was Mars, and it was inhabited, and it was not a planet at the time. It was a moon of Maldek. Well, it got blown out of its orbit and became the planet, the barren, dead planet that we see out there today, because it was severely impacted too. I mean, the planet wasn't completely destroyed,
Right.
but I mean, its atmosphere was blown away, and its inhabitants could no longer stay there. So, what's going on here? Well, the progenitor race, as they were called on Maldek, some of them escaped and came, you guessed it, they came to Earth, and they came to Antarctica, and they inhabited what was left of the ancient builder race's underground city, and began to venture out from there on planet Earth. But most of them did not make it. And that same is true for the people on Mars. So the question is, well, what happens to them? And the answer is that life tries to take care of everybody. Virtually nobody is left behind. You got to be extremely evil in order to be left behind. But the people of Maldek weren't that bad. I mean, they weren't 100% evil, I don't suppose. And so many of them were brought to Earth. But the thing is that they brought to Earth to come and conquer Earth? No. Higher life forms didn't see that as a viable option. So what they did, I mean, this is getting pretty far out there, but this is all documented in the Law of One. What they did was they incarnated not on the third dimension of planet Earth, but on the second dimension, or the second density, as the Law of One calls it. Density and dimension are two interchangeable terms. We've all heard of Bigfoot, right?
Oh, yeah. I just did a show on it last week.
This is how many of them came in as Bigfoot. And what was the predecessor to Neanderthal man? Yeah. And the apes and like that. So at least they couldn't do any harm to third dimensional Earth, and perhaps it would give them a chance to evolve enough so eventually they could incarnate as third dimensional beings. And I think most of them have made it to that. But then there's the question of, well, what happened to the people on Mars?
Right.
They were stopped right in the middle. They were not ever given a chance to transfer into fourth dimension because they hadn't evolved to that point yet. So what happened to them is that they were brought to Earth. evidently, Tony, there are beings out there, the Greys, certain aspects of the Greys, at least being one of them, one of their main functions seems to be, since they are cloning experts, to clone higher versions of the people that are on a planet that's about to self-destruct, and take them to in a cloned body that is better able to handle the new worlds they're going into, and take them through time traveling and place them in their appropriate new home.
Wow.
So that's evidently what happened with the Martians. They were time traveled 425,000 years into their future and made their appearance here on planet Earth about 75,000 years ago, and along with many of the progenitor race who had progressed enough to incarnate into third dimension, and they proceeded to venture out on planet Earth. They weren't conquering the planet at that time. They had learned their lesson, I guess, enough to be a bit more peaceful. So that's, as I indicated earlier, that is continuing to impact us here today. Why, you say? Well, because what it means is that we became populated with really a bunch of backstabbing misfits who were out there trying to conquer other worlds, who still, were trying to, you might say, learn their lessons to become more decent human beings. So that held us back significantly.
But we still, all right. So let's go back to Atlantis a little bit, because we've heard about Atlantis being a highly technical society, more of a higher thought race, but yet they destroyed themselves. So, yeah. But it's almost like we're reliving the same thing over and over. It's like, Martians destroyed their own planet. They moved here. We've destroyed our planet before. Now we're doing it again. How are we keep doing the same cycle of destroying our planet? And as spiritual beings, how are we not spiritually ascending to these different dimensions smarter?
Yeah, great question. Well, I've given a good portion of the answer by suggesting that we have, we've been populated by what I like to call backstabbing misfits who don't turn your back on them, because bad things might happen to you. And so, that's held us back significantly. Now, if you look at the law of one, what they say is that typically a third dimensional planet will go through 3 cycles, each of 25,920 years.
Right.
That also happens to be the length of the precession of the equinoxes. But let's put that aside for the moment and focus in on what the law of one says. They say that at the end of the first 25,000 year cycle, typically about 40% of the planet, of the inhabitants, will make it into the 4th dimension, and the remainders, if their planet becomes uninhabitable, will be taken to another 3rd dimensional planet.
Right, wow.
At the end of the 2nd cycle, they say that the remainder most of them will make it through, of the 60% who didn't ascend the first time through. And at the end of the 3rd 25,000 year cycle, they say that anybody left over will definitely be taken through this time, because in law of one terms, the planet will cease to become useful. And what they mean is that there's going to be a solar flash, which is going to cause all the underground volcanoes to go off, Yellowstone caldera, the mid-Atlantic ridge, and all the rest of them, ultimately to bury the surface of the Earth between 40 to 400 tons of rock.
Wow.
And that you probably wouldn't want to be here when that's happening. So they speak of an inconvenience. I
love how
inconvenience. That's an inconvenience.
Yeah,
the law of one, folks.
That's actually Robert Schoch even talked about that. He was on my show several months ago talking about the solar flare, and that could pretty much torch our Earth and he expects
yeah, and it's a necessary thing because it what it is it gives the opportunity for ascension, because what it's doing is it's creating what I like to call a galactic superwave that will come in. I mean, this is cyclic. This isn't something that just happens once and never again.
Right.
This is something that happens to all third dimensional planets, and we are at the end of our I guess I didn't. I guess I didn't unpack the rest of it. We get carried away here.
Yeah, right.
What
I'm
happened
okay
here on planet Earth?
I'm okay. I let everybody else unpack the suitcases for me. So if you don't mind, give us a little more because
It's really important that we look at what happened here on planet Earth.
For sure.
Because at the end of the first 25,000 year cycle, nobody ascended. Hello.
Right.
At the end of the second 25,000 year cycle, only 157 people ascended, all of whom stayed with the earth and became ascended masters. Now here we are at the end of the third 25,920 year cycle, and the great question is, well, what's going to happen? Is anybody going to make it through? And the answer is, yeah, I think a whole lot of us are going to make it through. What's going to happen to the rest? Well, it's made very clear in the Law of One, and it's clearly understood in the Secret Space Program that there are races of beings whose main function, the Greys being one of them, to transport those who aren't ready to other third dimensional planets where they can go through enough incarnations to work through their karma to become ascension ready. So what's going on, and the reason for the solar flashes and all that, which is not chisels in stone, it doesn't have to happen. It's just a function of our own collective and individual unconsciousness that gets iterated out there, as above, so below. It's very unlikely that we will ascend as one, where virtually everybody on the planet makes it through. But as unlikely as it may seem, it is absolutely possible. And we may, in fact, be on that optimal timeline where we're creating a condition that allows for the critical mass to be created that will allow for the optimal timeline to go through. That is, most everybody on the planet making it into the higher worlds. And if that's true, and I give plenty of evidence to suggest that indeed we might be on that timeline, then these are exciting times indeed.
Are we talking about, when we say making it through, does that mean when our time here on this planet is done, our soul, as people call it, or energy going to another dimension? Or is it also, our physical bodies going to another dimension?
Yeah,
just for the
physical bodies making it through. In the book, I allude to how this was all beginning. The information was coming to us as early as the 1950s, and I have a whole chapter on it. I call it what did I call it? Contact in the Desert, where to begin, a guy by the name of W.B. Smith was actually hired, if you will, or commissioned by the Canadian government to go on out there and take a deep look into this whole UFO phenomenon. And he began to realize that really the best way of doing this would be to connect with a group of like-minded people in his view being actual contactees.
Oh, wow.
And a really good place to do that back in the 1950s, because at Joshua Tree, California,
right,
there were annual UFO conferences, typical attendance about 5,000 people, many of who claimed to be contactees. So he went there and he contacted and connected with a bunch of these people. And in order to find out if they were really who they say they were, he created a 100-part questionnaire where if you really were a contactee, you would answer it in one way. And if you weren't, well, you couldn't fake it. And so that gave him the assurance that he needed, that he was talking to real people who had been there and done that, who were giving a consistent message. And what they were all saying was that there's a higher vibratory energy that's making its appearance through through the cosmos and into our solar system, and it's going to impact everyone and everything, not only on Earth, but throughout the entire solar system. And that they were warning us that it would be a really good idea to begin to prepare for it back in the 1950s. And really some amazing information was coming out back then. And so they were talking about right here and right now. The secret space program is well aware of this galactic superwave, as they call it, that is coming in and dramatically raising the vibratory rate of the planet and everyone on it. And those who are able to, it's acting as a catalyst, to a wake-up call. Those who are able to catch the wave, catch the ascension wave, as I like to call it, are able to move out at an enormously accelerated rate right now. Those who resist, well, it's going to be a rough road indeed. And even if you do learn to catch the wave and go into harmony with what's happening, it doesn't mean that everything is always going to be smooth and easy. Spiritual growth isn't always even and easy and just, just a smooth ride. We will be tested, and we are being. There will be challenges, and it's up to us to become harmonious enough with the whole wave of energy that's coming in, to learn to ride with these waves and to learn and to grow from them, to be transmuted by them, so that we can make it through. Not as our body as you see it today, but as a light body, and this is clearly spelled out in biblical quotes, which came to me. I'm not a student of the Bible, but Smith made contact with a well-known author back in the name, a guy named George Hunt Williamson, who was talking about this and gave great detail about this, and gave some fascinating biblical quotes that just spell out the ascension. And they say that it'll happening in the twinkling of an eye, in a moment, and that we will be transformed into light bodies, because flesh and blood cannot make it through. Yeah, that is those who are ascension ready. So it's just a fascinating story that was being told way back in the 1950s.
No, and I think a lot of people on this planet are feeling, I would say, heaviness, because a lot of people I talk to, especially out here, growing up in the Midwest and Kansas, where I'm from, and I was born in 1969. So for many years, we didn't have the technology that, the phones and the computers and stuff like that, where we could keep in contact with anybody instantly all over the world. Do you feel the technology has sped up the ascension? Because it feels like, even though technology can be great for certain things, it also feels like it can be very heavy, of putting a lot of extra energy out into the universe that may or may not be good for us.
Well, technology, I would suggest, is innocent. It's a question of our consciousness and how we use it.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, much of it has been used behind the scenes to control us. All of which is coming to a head right now, because of the quickening energy, the higher vibratory energy that's infusing the planet. The individual in the collective darkness is coming out of the shadows and to be exposed to the light. And it's only when it can be exposed to the light that it's possible to transmute it into the light. And that's just an ancient universal principle. It's been around forever. In many ways, it's as simple as, if you walk into a completely darkened room, you can't see a thing. But the moment you flip on the light switch, the darkness disappears.
Right, exactly.
You could say it got transmuted into the light. It cannot survive in the presence of light. And so it's absolutely necessary to bring our individual darkness, our individual unresolved emotional traumas from early childhood and whatever, to bring them to the light of our conscious awareness, so that it can be transmuted into literally the light of our conscious awareness. But that's not a done deal. You have to learn to harmonize with it. If you resist it, like I suggested earlier, it's going to be a rough ride. It's also happening on a global scale. The global darkness is coming out of the shadows,
Right.
where the very powerful few, the global elite, have been controlling us for a long, long time from behind the scenes. Now their game is being exposed to the light, and their days are numbered. So I suggest that's very good things that are happening here on planet Earth. But here again, you have to learn how to catch the wave. And I'd like to take a moment, at least at some point here, to just at least give some insight as to what I mean
Please.
by harmonizing and catching the wave.
I mean,
That'd
if
be okay to
it's
talk
almost
about
like
now?
a surfboard. I mean, if I went out on a surfboard and you don't know how to use a surfboard, it's very difficult me to center my body, to be able to stand, be able to stay on the board with a movement of the wave. So can you talk about that? Because a lot of people may not be ready for what's coming, and it would be great for you to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, the first thing I want to say is that I divided my book into two sections. The first section I called Lifting the Veil, where I expose all, we've talked about much of the first section. But the second section, I call it Awakening in the Illusion. And to me, the personal transformation that we all need to make, that is, in order to catch this wave of ascension and to be the fullest and the very best version of ourselves, to realize the fact that we are holograms of the one infinite creator, and it's all contained within us. So to me, what I see, it's the process of discovering and mastering our innate ability to literally transmute the energy that's of fear and of limiting belief systems that's been holding us back and keeping us stuck and spinning our wheels for a long, long time right now. To take that life-detracting energy and discover and develop and ultimately master our innate ability to transmute that energy into life-enhancing energy. So you not only are discovering presence and feeling really good again in your life, but you're also just dissolving literally lifetimes worth of karma. And we can talk about lifetimes worth of karma, but I think it's well to focus in on the fact that virtually everybody on the planet is carrying around tons and tons of stuck energy.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is that, one of the chapters I talk about in my book, I go into great detail about how when the solar system was first created, way back in the day, all the beings, all the people were in full awareness of their intimate connection to the source. There was no veiling. And you would think that, my goodness, that would be just fantastic. It would be wonderful. Everybody sitting around being blissed out of their infinite connection to all that is. But the truth is that it was a disaster. It wasn't working because there was no incentive to grow. There was no motivation. And so I guess it was decided that it would be a good idea to put a veiling over all of humans so that when the veiling was there would be virtually no awareness of our connection to the whole. Now, that might sound kind of weird, but what it did was it allowed for growth. We discovered motivation and creativity, and as a result of that, good things started to happen. Creativity like music and art and dance and things like that began to appear. Growth began to happen. Well, the one way of looking at what the veiling did to us is that it moved us from our heartfelt connection to all that is, our heartfelt personal connection to source through our higher self. It moved us from there into our reactive minds, which does not connect the dots, does not see wholeness, is never in the present moment, sees the present through the eyes of our unresolved emotional trauma from the past, and is in a continual state of judgment. Now, that's because it's polarized.
Right.
Now, you stop and think of the number of times that you and I have judged somebody or something. We're pretty good at it, right?
Oh, never.
Yeah, never. Right. Yeah. Well, every time we do, there's the conceptual, there's the mental component, like this person really is bad and wrong, or this thing, situation really is bad and wrong, because it doesn't conform to the idealized version that our mind is telling us that this person ought to be like this, or this situation ought to be like this. And if it doesn't measure up, we judge it, we make it wrong. Well, every time we do that, there is an instantly generated energetic component. Call it a sensation, or very simply a feeling. Now, because the conceptual component, this thing really is bad and wrong, or this person really is bad and wrong, is a negative thought, usually infused with significant amounts of emotional charge.
Right.
The instantly generating pattern of energy or feeling can only be an unpleasant feeling. Now, you and I are quite conditioned to want to feel good, and in the absence of any known integrative technique, what we do is we spend a great deal of time trying to distance ourselves from those unpleasant feelings, and we all have our favorite ways of doing that. What it does is it creates a huge reservoir of stuck energy in the body that doesn't go away, that continues to live there and produce less than optimal results. And so developing and mastering your innate ability to transmute that energy, the energy that shows up as fear, the energy that shows up as in lack of any way, the energy that has been keeping us stuck, limiting belief systems, etc. What I'm talking about is developing and mastering, by discovering your innate ability to transmute this energy, the energy of fear, to transmute. What if you discovered your innate ability to transmute that energy into life-enhancing energy? If there really is a threat to your safety, to transmute that energy into alertness, into a just a very high state of presence, so that you can be appropriate in the moment rather than freaked out by it. Or if it's energy that is related to, there's no great threat to your survival at stake, but take the fear of public speaking, for example. Now, that's enough to drive most people up the wall, I suggest, even though I mean, come on, not many, not much damage, not much harm has ever come to a person in the form of public speaking.
Unless they throw tomatoes.
So it's really what I like to call an illusionary fear, yet it's very real for most people. That kind of fear, once you've discovered your innate ability to transmute that energy, transmutes into exhilarating and exciting energy that puts you into the present moment. So instead of being freaked out by going on the roller coaster, you're excited. Oh, I can hardly wait to get on that ride. It's going to be so exciting. Well, you can take that on and on. You can learn to transmute sadness into gratitude, and anger and resentment into a high level of intention. So it's like that. Wow. So you learn to harmonize with life rather than to be, than to resist it. And I suggest that that's the transformation that we need to make. And I do spend the entire second half of my book just going into great detail on exactly how each and every one of us can do that. Because, I want to be absolutely a part of creating the critical mass, absolutely a part of the shift that we need to make also, and that is from service to self to service to the greater good. Law of One spells this out clearly and succinctly and exactly. And that's the transformation that becomes just normal and natural as we learn how to transmute energy that was life detracting and to transmute it into life enhancing energy. So we can discover the present moment. And it's only in the present moment that our intimate, heartfelt connection to all that is our higher self is available to us. That's where all the unlimited reservoir of inner peace and joyfulness and creativity and all the goodies in life are available to us and are coming through us, and life becomes an exciting adventure. That's the transformation right there as I see it, Tony.
I love it. And before we get out of here, I do have a question from the chat room, and I thought this was a good one. So I want to ask, it's from Star Duster. And it says, I have a question for Bob, and sorry if I mispronounce anything here, are consciousness enhancers like DMT or Psilocybin different to his breathing meditation techniques?
Psilocybin and what's
There we
the
go.
popular one of the day now? Ayahuasca.
There we go.
Is it different from? Yeah. Well, breath alchemy is one. It's the way that I teach. I wouldn't suggest it's the only way to learn how to transmute that energy, but it's an extremely effective way of doing it. And yeah, it's quite different. Psilocybin and I've been there. I've done that. Not for quite some time, but it and ayahuasca, even though I've never tried it, it can take you there. It can open the doorway for you. But then to me, the game becomes, well, how do you learn to discover? How do you learn to move through that doorway without the enhancement of these, like you say, mind-expanding drugs? And breath alchemy is an extremely effective technique that allows one, as I suggest, to discover and then to master your innate ability to transmute life-detracting energy into life-enhancing energy, so you can discover the present moment where your higher self is available to you, where all the life-enhancing goodies of creativity and inspiration and inner peace and joyfulness and all of that becomes available to you. And so as a result, you're catching the wave. You become ascension ready. And ascension ready, goodness sakes, there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, because the law of one makes it very clear that the fourth dimensional world is a world that is at least 100 times more harmonious in every conceivable way than even your very best moments here on third dimensional Earth. And I would suggest that even enhanced through an ayahuasca trip or psilocybin trip, at least 100 times more harmonious than that. That sounds pretty good to me.
Well, on our way out, could you give us like maybe one exercise or tool for those people out there that says, this is great stuff, I want to, ascend, with everyone else that's on a higher level, but what can they do as an exercise or tools to start building up to that point to where?
Well, again, I would just suggest that, if you get a copy of the book Catching the Ascension Wave, I spend the entire second half of the book just
Perfect.
delving into that in great detail, because I want to bring my friends with me.
Right.
Want to bring as many people as possible through.
Well, please, everyone, get the book. It's called Catching the Ascension Waves, everything you need to know about the coming Great Awakening. And I'm excited because it's going to happen. It's going to happen no matter if you want it or not. It's one of those things that just, it's happened before, and let's get ready for it so we can all go together and have a big party on the other side. And so, Bob, definitely part 2. I already know this because there's so many other questions I have and so much of the book that we didn't even get to. Will you come back?
Oh, I'll come back in a moment. Anytime you want. Absolutely. I've truly loved talking with you. Enjoyed the moment being with you. And
Thank you, sir.
Glad to come back anytime.
Perfect. Go get the book. You can go to Bob Frissell. Right?
Bob Frissell. There we go, Tony.
Got it.
Attaboy.
.com and get that book. Go to Amazon and other outlets.
Go to Amazon. I don't sell it on my site. I direct you to Amazon or to Barnes & Noble. But Amazon is the easiest place.
Perfect. And we want to thank Bob and for being here. And we want to thank everybody for tuning in. Just so you know, Truth Be Told has been doing this for 13 years. We are changing a little bit of the name, not the name of Truth Be Told, but it's going to be called Club Paranormal. It's because we want to have multiple different podcasts under the Club Paranormal brand. Truth Be Told is leading the way. I have been doing this for so long, half the time I don't remember how long I've been doing this, but we want to thank you for supporting us and being a part of our brand, and make sure you tune in for Bonnie on Wednesday with Truth Be Told Transformation, Metaphor doing the Espanol version of Truth Be Told, and Robert Hensley Minutemen Report on Monday. So, but thank you guys, and we appreciate you. Until next time, I'm Tony Sweet for Truth Be Told. This has been another episode of Truth Be Told. Thank you so much for watching. Recorded live at UBN Go Studios in Burbank, California. Join us on social media. Facebook, Truth Be Told Radio. Instagram, Truth Be Told Paranormal. Go to Truth Be Told Worldwide for more information on upcoming shows.